Right, guys, it's reading time. We got the Tropic Storm Army Generals. The Tropic Storm's actually getting an Army General this time. There's loads of pictures. I know you guys like the pictures more than the words. We'll be looking at both the pictures and the words. And yeah, single player content. So neither of the previous DLCs had, you know, single player stuff. So the last one that came out, so the Nemesis ones never do. They're just, I mean, you can play the divisions in skirmish, but there's no proper single player mode. So Nemesis 7, no single player. Landjut, no single player. The last thing that got single player was Southag, which released in 7th of October 2025. So it's been almost a year since the last proper single player content. And people are getting mad. They want that single player. How did the Landjut do on the reviews? Mixed. They're always mixed. Oh, well, okay. People like Paris, apparently. Although few people bought it. Yeah, you kind of need that single player. Most of these players aren't actually a multiplayer. Because you can tell, right? Because you just look through the lobbies, and obviously not every game has spectate on, but you could just count the players, and you'll find that it's like maybe 1/10 of this, maybe a quarter. So yeah, it's you need to add the single player stuff, and I never cover it on the channel because I find it really boring. I didn't even want to read this out, but people kept bothering me about it, leaving the same comment over and over and over again. So yeah, here we are. We're reading. We're reading. I love reading. First, I need to get a cup of tea because my voice hurts. But my voice doesn't hurt when it comes time to thank the generous channel joiners. Generously joining the channel, they get a Steam key for my game Hearse Hero, which is coming out on Steam at the end of this month. All the levels are ready and everything. There's a free demo for that, so if you want to help me out for free, you could wishlist the game because it makes Steam recommend it to more people, much like liking the YouTube video, etc., subscribing, etc., makes the YouTube algorithm recommend it to more people. Right, words time. Sorry, Broken Arrow had an update and it's on like 4% positive reviews or something. Today's devblog is the last of the Tropic Storm previews. While we highlighted each of the 6 new divisions in the previous posts, and I've got videos about all of those, the new massive Army General campaign Cuba Libre gets the spotlight in today's devblog. Let's go! Warno Tropic Storm strategic situation. A quick recap of Warno Tropic Storm's overall strategic situation. As you should know by now, the new expansion's theatre of operations is the Caribbean and the northern coast of South America. We have set the timeline slightly ahead of the European War of Warno in the base game in the spring of 1989. So this is happening before the big kickoff in Europe. A coup by Hugo Chavez during a period of riots and demonstrations against an unpopular Venezuelan government succeeds in the early part of 1989, with deep covert backing by communist Cuba and the Soviet Union. Taken aback by the sudden appearance of a red and hostile Venezuela, the United States hastily forms an anti-communist regional bloc made up of new allies Colombia and Brazil. As tension climbs to fever pitch in Europe, so too in South America, especially after Washington receives credible intel that Cuba and the USSR were behind Venezuela's turn to communism. Oh no! With war looming against the Warsaw Pact, the United States decides to excise the communist threat in its own backyard. Offensive plans for Venezuela and Cuba are dusted off, hurriedly updated, with the green light given for a full-scale invasion of the Caribbean island off Florida's coast given precedence. So yeah, there's Cuba if you don't know. There's Guantanamo Bay. I don't know if this is to scale. Haiti looks pretty big here. Warno Tropic Storm's Cuba Libre. First things first, the Army General's campaign name, Cuba Libre. Sharing the name with a rather popular drink, a rum and coke cocktail that saw the light after Cuba's independence in the early 20th century Spanish-American War. So yeah, America, obviously kind of the idea is that the US wasn't like a empire like the British Empire or the Spanish Empire, but they went to war with Spain and they took a bunch of their shit. So, although Cuba apparently became independent, right? Interestingly enough, the drink's name gained a poignancy after Castro and Co.'s takeover in the late 1950s, as Cuban Bacardi, the famous rum producer, fled the island, and Coca-Cola became nearly impossible to source after the American embargoes. Is it Tango or Fanta that was made in Nazi Germany? I think it's Fanta, because they couldn't get the materials in for Coca-Cola anymore, so they made a new drink using what was domestically available, and I believe that became Fanta. Back to the Army General campaign itself. The United States quickly ramps up its preparations, deploying several key forces to the southern states. The Joint Task Force Cuba is created and earmarked to spearhead the invasion of the communist island. This actually sounds like an interesting single-player scenario. Honestly, I don't even play them. The operations are like single missions. My profile got nuked, so I have actually completed maybe a fifth of these. It's just I didn't, it's wiped all the stars, right? But the Army General, these are like really big missions. There's like pawns on the board. We'll get to it, I suppose. And then you zoom in and fight a tactical battle, whereas the operation is just one tactical battle with some scripting, basically. And I just find them kind of dull. Maybe I'll play the Cuban one. Honestly, if you want to see operations gameplay, you should check out Vulcan's channel, Vulcan HD Gaming. I'm sure you've heard of him if you've heard of me, because he plays through all the operations. I personally find it very, very dull. Hopefully, this one already seems better, frankly, because it's actually something interesting. The Cuban defences are formidable, especially around Havana Unana. Not only that, half of my heart is in Havana. The whole of the island has been training for years for a potential American invasion, with its well-prepared militia forces having participated in its yearly Dia Nacional de Defensa, so presumably the defense of the nation, likely to see immediate action upon the arrival of hostile American boots on the ground. In shaping actions, the US Navy puts on a big show of force off the coast of Matanzas, east of Havana, while two National Guard formations very actively board transports in New Jersey. This is a ruse. Oh my god. There's a game called Ruse. That's pretty funny, actually. Ruse is honestly definitely worth checking out. I'm surprised by how expensive they made it, but that's got a proper campaign. So there you go. There's Cuba. There's Guantanamo. I'm really surprised they've let them keep Guantanamo, I'm surprised they didn't just push them off the island, but I guess it's like, well, they can't do anything. Well, what do you mean? No, they repelled the Bay of Pigs, so... Anyway, the real invasion will hit the northern shores of Pinar del Rio at the western end of Cuba. This will undoubtedly result in a Cuban response with heavy reinforcements to be redeployed from the eastern parts of the island nation. So there you go, you've got the 101st US Airborne, the Y, not sure who they are, and the 4th US Marines, which are going to be in this DLC. 101st is already in the game. Not sure what that Y one is. Will the deception be sufficient to catch the Cubans off guard, and perhaps give enough time and momentum to open several important but heavily defended secondary beaches? Will a quick drive on Havana lead to a successful regime change in Cuba, or a replay of the disastrous Bay of Pigs / Playa Giron invasion in 1961? What is that? Spanish for Bay of Pigs? Now we've got another breaker, and then more about the DLC. Warno Tropic Storm's campaign detailed. How will the Army General campaign actually play out? As mentioned before, you will be able to play with both the United States or American Joint Task Force Cuba, JETF Cuba, and the Fuerzas Armadas Revolucionarias, Cuban Revolutionary Armed Forces, the El Ejército Occidental, or Western Army, including the Second Corps. So JTF Cuba, the American JTF Cuba lands on the northern beaches of the Pinar del Rio district, west of Havana. Coming ashore in the first wave is the 4th Marine Division, supported by the air mobile troops of the 101st Airborne Division, open brackets, air assault, close brackets. These are both divisions already available for skirmish or multiplayer, the first as part of Warno Tropic Thunder, the latter as part of Nemesis 1 Air Assault. Probably the best Nemesis in my opinion. I think it was also the best received. It was also the first one. 101st US Airborne plays like nothing else in the game, and same with 56Y, the Soviet quote-unquote VDV, but they're like Afghan warriors, basically. They're from Afghanistan, so they've got loads of funny kit, custom kit. In the follow-up wave, the 26th Infantry Division, well, there you go, also known as the Yankee Division, will become available. These troops come from the Massachusetts National Guard, with some units from Vermont, Connecticut, and Rhode Island, and within the Army General Campaign provide a host of less powerful battalions. Great. Useful for securing either the beachhead or the advancing spearheads. They can also be used to bring fresh reinforcements for the final offensive on Havana. The goal of the JTF Cuba, victory or defeat in the campaign, is twofold for both sides. Both need to either capture or hold the Comando Occidental's command center next to Cuba's capital and the initial beachhead. This means the Cubans need to defend and push out the invaders, while the Americans cannot lose sight of their lifeline as they breach Havana's defenses. This is the first Army General I've seen that I actually want to play. The Soviets are attacking. They're going to take Bad Town or whatever there's Bad Hertzfeld. And I was like, okay, great. Whereas this is actually pretty interesting. You do the American invasion of Cuba. By the way, you can play these campaigns in co-op and in versus with up to 4 players. So if you like the AI is too easy for me, which a surprising number of people struggle against the AI, but you know, it's easy for me to say, oh, AI is so easy when I've got like 4,000 hours in this game. I love Broken Arrow. Yeah, wow. It's still going up. So, yeah. This means the Cubans need to defend and push out the invaders, while the Americans cannot lose sight of their lifeline as they breach Havana's defences. And yeah, you can play as either side. And yeah, the Revolutionary Army. The first layer of Cuban defences, encountered right on the shores, will be the MTT, the Territorial Militia Units. Despite all the American deceptive operations, they are ready to receive the imperialist invaders, but they can't hope to do more than delay their advance and hamper their initial offensive moments. These units will be useful to derail any isolated American battalion, especially when supported by long-range Cuban artillery and aircraft. And yeah, so the pawns, you've got like the front attacking forces, and then you've got air pawns back there, and artillery ones. And basically when you select your unit and right-click the enemy, it asks, do you want to support with air, do you want to support with artillery? And there's some additional mechanics behind how the air gets intercepted and stuff. There's actually some thought went into it. Yeah. The second Cuerpo will be the main combat force of the Cubans, composed of the 11th Infantry Division, between Pinar del Rio and San Cristobal, and the 24th Infantry Division, from San Cristobal to Havana. The 12th Infantry Division, further west, is not being featured here, but several smaller corps and Army independent battalions, mostly Army Air ones, will be present. So yeah, there's apparently a surprising amount of realism goes into like what units are where and stuff like that. I couldn't say whether or not that's true, but I've been told. Reinforcements, which come available in the 1st Tank Division, which is the one we care about because that's one of the multiplayer divisions. And its powerful armoured battalions, which are being recalled from the east, and the 7th Special Motorized Rifle Brigade, also known as the Soviet Brigade in Cuba. And these guys are a part of the 1st Tank Division in the multiplayer, I think. I think it's that one. And then there you go, so you've got some Air Force of your own, right. Warno Tropic Storms campaign gameplay. What was the previous one? Okay. Taking on the role of the Western-aligned American commander, you'll get to explore possible avenues of attack. JTF Cuba, first up is the shore, where you'll be able to secure additional beaches along the way. That's cool. This would allow you to bring in fresh reinforcements closer to the final objective when they become available. However, this route is long and slow, as the secondary road network does little to aid the advance. With the rest of the terrain being markedly difficult... This is also the forest the Cuban MTT will fight most comfortably, using the woods to the best of their abilities to delay the Americans. Before reaching Havana, the city of Mariel and the bay will form an urban bottleneck, flanked by sea and forest, and will probably prove a tough nut to crack. So yeah, the map seems pretty long. And yeah, basically, you move a pawn and then you press next turn, and obviously you should move them all. And you can also resolve the battles if you want, like in Total War. The other route inland will be the long way around. This will necessitate an attack south towards Pinar del Rio City, with the aim to crush the smallest 11th Infantry Division while it is still isolated. Then American units can use the Seoul West-East Highway to drive east as fast as possible. Okay, that makes sense. Cool. While the terrain is more favourable for rapid movement, including flanking attacks, this sector is unfortunately where most of the Cuban forces are located. One additional benefit is that this axis of advance will leave the Americans with only one beachhead to defend, but it also means all reinforcements will come from the same spot. Interesting. Look, helicopters. Yeah, the Cuban Revolutionary Army. The Cubans have as their main task to delay the invading American forces for as long as possible. The key to success is to use the divisions in situ to harass the enemy forces. Falling back too fast will only spell disaster. Keeping the imperialist invaders as far away as possible from Havana until heavier mechanized forces come into play is a matter of survival. Only then should a commander think about pushing the Americans back. Of course, you should never lose sight of the possibility of a deadly local counterattack whenever the invaders feel emboldened. And then it talks about Warno Tropic Storm, if you want to see all 6 new divisions. The Devblog readouts, then you can check that out. Yeah, the Army General, it seems interesting. Hopefully it is interesting. And I honestly, because this channel's all about the multiplayer, and all my friends who play Warno only play multiplayer, but the fact of the matter is the majority of Warno players are single-player players. And so this is subsidizing your ranked matches. This is subsidizing your 10v10 servers. So don't hate on the single-players because they are the majority of gamers in most, if not all, strategy games. So, yeah, have a lovely day.